Shaun Mejender.
Oh, yes, Johnny! No, Johnny, give you my guy. He almost crushed me. He almost crushed me with his power. Get it for Johnny. Isn't he great? Isn't he great? Great energy, great love, great power. Oh, my God. This is great, guys. How are we all doing? Make some noise. Make some noise. Shake it out. These things can be really dry, and we can talk about stats and data, and I'm here to kind of shake it up a little bit. I'm here to tell you my story about my journey, my little journey, but not just my journey, but, how the hell, like I get that question a lot when I travel. People are like, how did you end up in small town Newfoundland? Right? And I've told my story on stage many times doing stand-up comedy. And, it's weird because I had no idea for a long time how I got to Newfoundland and Labrador. And there I am. Look at me. Can you spot me? Like a little bit of ash falling on a snowbank. There's the little beige baby. There I am. I said, one of these things is not like the other. There I am, my little cute little. Look at how happy I am in that picture. Isn't that amazing? What a beautiful day. I'm surrounded by my first cousins. That's Daryl and Lisa, my beige sisters in the background there. And I was the only little beige baby. I say beige because I wasn't quite full, like I wasn't Johnny Dark, you know what I mean? I was in the middle because my dad, as I learned later in life, he was from India, and my mom was from Newfoundland, right here, white, like the whitest you could ever imagine. Like, even that's Newfoundland white. For my brown brothers and sisters here tonight, like it's not another. It's another level of white in Newfoundland and Labrador. Like when guys take off their shirts, you can see their hearts beating inside. Like they're see-through. It's not a normal white. It's like if E.T. had sex with one of those cold tie spring rolls. You know the ones where you can see the carrot vein going down the side and you dip it in the orange, like that kind of see-through, right? That's the kind of white we have here in Newfoundland. And then my dad was brown. But when I think about my journey coming to Newfoundland and being in Newfoundland, being raised in Newfoundland, not just Newfoundland, but rural Newfoundland, we're here in Gander, big city of Gander, hub, which, by the way, I didn't bring the picture. I threw this stuff together yesterday after I landed at the airport. But it was so funny. I just love how Gander's been, on the map a lot. I love Gander, but Gander kind of pushes them. But sometimes they go a little too far with the beauty of Newfoundland and Labrador. Like in my boarding pass, Air Canada sent me a picture and said, your flight to Gander is now boarding. And it was a picture of like an outport community with ocean and boats. I'm like, Gander, why are you lying? There is no, and I feel bad for people who go see Come From Away in New York City. You know what I mean? They're like, oh my God, I love that place. That place where 9/11 happened. He was so passionate. I love it. I'm going to go look up Newfoundland. And they go look it up on the internet and they see the pictures and the whales and the icebergs. And then they pay 10 grand each to fly here from New York. And they land in Gander and they're like, this is garbage compared to what it was on the website. There's a jungle gyms and there's cigarette butts everywhere. It's not what I expected. I want my money back. No, I do love Gander. But anyway, by the way, this talk today, I may get sidetracked and spin off into little things, but that's kind of fun, isn't it? Okay, so how did I get here? Well, it all started with my dad. And my dad, being Indian, he came South Asian, he came from India. And where specifically, let's talk about where I'm living, where I was raised, in a town called Burlington. Okay, now you can see the little red dot there. It's like a bindi. It's like a bindi I put right there. That is my small outport town. It's on the north coast, on the Baver Peninsula, population 350. That's including youngsters and pets. And there's been no crime there since I robbed Danny Foster of a goal playing road hockey in 1981. Yes. Not much crime. And of course, I was the one who was the goalie because I was the only beige kid in town. And nobody wanted to play. That was my first instance of racism, I think it was. It was nobody wanted to play road hockey or play goalie on a gravel road, because you're not just getting a frozen tennis ball in your nuts, you're getting buckshot of gravel and pellets also. So they were like, stick the brown guy in net. Now I understand how that happens. Oh, go back one. Look at that. That's my hometown of Burlington. 350 people. Gorgeous. If you're right there, we're facing south as you stand on that hill. No, that was a drone shot. But looking south. So then to the left, that's Greenland. If you keep going that way, it's just north, and it's Greenland and east, northeast. And then that's where all these icebergs come in, and it's such a stunning place. They should have, that's the stuff you see on all the commercials. So I was so thankful. I was raised there. And my dad, how did he get from this place? This is a small town. Well, I don't know how big the town is, compared to Newfoundland. It's probably like in India, like a small town is like 50,000 people or something. But this was a small community named Kumilla, and that was where he was born. And then he went from Kumilla, he went to Calcutta after partition, because as some of you may or may not know, the journey at that time during partition was incredibly hairy. And he was not around during that time, but his family actually rescued all of the girls from that place. And when partition happened, there was horrific atrocities, fighting between the Hindus and the Muslims. And my grandmother's father actually went on a mission, knowing the future of this area was terrible for his daughters. He literally, under the dark of night, smuggled his family, like crossing rivers, like, staying overnight, hiding out in the jungle, and bringing his family of girls all the way to Calcutta, where they finally found refuge there, and then their whole lives were raised there. And I'm so thankful for that. But when I think about how did I get to Newfoundland, and then I found this story out when I went over there. I was doing this show called Who Do You Think You Are? And they revealed all this stuff to me, and I was so blown away on my dad's side. And so anyway, he got there, and then my dad left India when he was a young man, and like many people, they're looking for more opportunities. He went to a Catholic school there, but he was Hindu, but he was a bit of a rock and roller. Like you can tell, look at him, he's a rebel. Like look at that, man, what a handsome dude. And he found his way via other cousins and other people that he heard stories. He ended up in Germany. And that's where this picture was taken. He was just outside of Munich in the 60s. And while he was there, he got away from his incredibly strict dad. His dad was like, you must get education. You are going to, that's all you're going to do. You're going to get education. You're going to become an engineer. You know the story in India. Education, engineer, doctor. That's it. Those are the only two options. And my dad, he was very artistic. He was very creative. He was a rebel. He was like, I get my education, but I like Elvis. I mean, look at him. He's like an Indian Elvis there. And then, also too, his traditional sense of love, he went against all of the old ways of thinking about, arranged marriage versus love marriage and all of this. But he was a free spirit, and he was one of the younger brothers. And anyway, he kind of did his own thing. And while he was in Germany, he fell in love with this woman named Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, or Liesel, as he called, it was love at first sight. I mean, look at the joy on his face there, He fell in love with Liesel. They were passionate. They were sparky. He was handsome. She was beautiful. They partied. And this is in Germany in the 60s, right? Now you'll notice, I don't know who that other brown guy is there. I actually wondered about that. It's like, is that my dad's, he looks like my dad's security. But he could be. But anyway, there you see the tall ostrich-looking fellow in the background. His name is Albert, and that was my dad's best friend. And that's how, Dad started dating his sister. And then to Dad's left there, you can see the mom. That is Liesel's mother. Now take note of that, because that's an interesting thing. They were, my dad was vivacious, and, they partied together and they hung out together. They formed such a great bond. And it was a beautiful love story. And my dad said, here's what I'm going to do, okay? Because again, the cousins that he was following and meeting up with, from a 22-year-old guy is like, oh, I'm going to Germany, I'm going to get a job. Then they ended up going to Canada. So then these other people, I say this kind of like, it's a gray area for me because I didn't get all the details. But what he told me was, he said, oh yeah, so-and-so, Ashit and other people, they all went to Canada. And so he told Liesel, I've got to follow them because we're going to have a better life in Canada. That's the goal. I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you and I'm going to bring you to Canada and we're going to live happily ever after. And my dad now, he had some work experience. He was working in Germany. He was working alongside engineers. He didn't get a full engineer degree, but he was, he was doing his thing. And so he left. And Liesel was alone. He left Liesel, said, don't you worry, my love. I'm going to come back. I'm going to get you. And so then he came to Canada. And when he came to Canada, he did the thing. He came over by boat. He came to Pier 21 in Halifax. And when he arrived, he went through the process, right? And when he went through the process, they found a little gray spot on his lung in the medical. They did all of his, all the biometrics and stuff, but they found a gray spot on his lung. It was the very early stages of tuberculosis. Now, back then, you didn't just take medicine and be sent on your way. Tuberculosis was so serious, and he had to be quarantined. And so when he got here, he was like, okay, wait, what? I'm going to meet my family. They're all up in Toronto getting jobs. I need to, no, you've got to be sent to a small town called Saint-Agathe, Quebec. And you need to be in quarantine for 6 months before you can continue on, right? So he came and he went into this hospital and he was writing. So he was quarantined in this hospital. And this lady here, who I've circled, started nursing him. He was like, they became very close. But in the meantime, he was writing letters back to Elizabeth saying, Elizabeth, I'm coming to get you, and keep writing letters, and didn't hear from her. She totally ghosted my dad. And he was like, wait, what? And like, you can't be, think about this too. This is like, you have to write letters. Back then, for the young people here, you couldn't just text someone and be like, you up? Yo, it's sending like, I'm coming to get you, and I'm going to bring you back to Canada, and we're going to live happily ever after emoji. That didn't exist. You know what I mean? You had to literally go out in the land, and you had to cut down a tree, carve off the bark. Then you'd have to eat giant amounts of food, roll around on the bark to get really fat, get really big and obese, and then roll around and make it nice and flat. Then you have to go out and kill a squirrel, and then you have to put the squirrel's butt all over, and you have to make paint, the blood becomes the paint, and then you have to write that into the bark, and then you have to roll that up and shove it up a pigeon's arse and send it off. And that's how he had to send letters back to Liesel, back in Germany. And, but anyway, oh, how do you sign that? I just realized, that's kind of weird. How do you do pigeon's arse? I'm just curious. Pigeon's, I love that. So anyway, but this woman, she was from Newfoundland. She would go on to later become my mother. And, but she was from Newfoundland. She did the typical Newfoundland experience, She started out she was born in Rattling Brook, which is just outside of Kings Point, Newfoundland, which is just outside of Burlington. And so she was born in Rattling Brook. Her mom was born in Rattling Brook. And, she did the thing. She's like, I get a nursing degree, go to Career Canada College or whatever it was. And off she went to Montreal, and she worked up in St. Agathe, Quebec. She got a job up there working as a nurse. And then this dark, chocolate, handsome fella, some exotic fella comes into I'm going to nurse him back to health. I never had dark meat before, like that kind of, Newfoundland. She was hungry, and it was exotic and exciting for her. And my dad, after got ghosted by this German woman, he just said, okay, well, I guess I'm going to, she seems nice. Okay, very good. I like her very much. And he was very nice and very sweet. And so there was my mom. And my mom and him, they started like hooking up. And look at that exotic. She was into it. Look at the sari. She's wearing this beautiful sari. And that's my dad. This is at the hospital. And then she was like, okay, buddy, that's it. Hop in the truck. We're going back to Newfoundland. And he was like, he fell in love. Now he had his friend, jobs up there. But my mom was very adamant, like, no, we're going to go back to Newfoundland. I want you to meet mom and dad and do all this stuff. So they came back to little tiny town Newfoundland, which was Burlington, my hometown. And my dad told me a story. He said he woke up one morning and he heard, when he went back, like now he got this brown man in this tiny outport community. He was truly a fish out of water. He shows up there, and her parents were like, what's this now? But we're welcoming, because that was the way it was, and the plan was they were going to get married, according to mom. Like, dad didn't ask. Dad never proposed. It was almost like, he got a grant. But he wasn't marrying her to get his like papers. It was just like she forced it. And he woke up one morning and heard his mom talking about wedding invitations, and heard my mom talking about wedding invitations. And then he was like, okay, I guess, like I said, she's very nice. So I really And so boom, that church, they got married in this church. It was amazing, right? This was unheard of, like in this small place, Indian man marrying this white woman in small town. But everybody loved it because he was so sexy, and exotic, and it was wild. But early on, you could see it. Look at that. They're not quite as connected. You can feel when it's not quite right. Something was off. Like it didn't happen organically. It wasn't sparks. She kind of, she was a hard, stubborn Bartlett woman. And she was just, this is what we're going to do. And he, I could see he got something else on his mind, He's thinking about Liesl, right? It's not the same spark as you could see in that picture as it was. But they went on. They had a good life, They were mom and dad. They had a couple of babies. And there I am. I'm the littler one. My sister is there, my sister Ronnie. And they had, they had children. But it wasn't meant to be, I'll be honest. They were not happy. I have remembrance of thinking about them. There was always bickering. There was always arguing. And something wasn't right when I was a kid, But there's we went up to Halifax, and that's my dad with his mother is there. Two people from him, my takuma, and then cousins and aunties. And, then they split. They really did. They were together for maybe 7 years, and then they split. And then my mom was like, okay, I'm taking the youngsters and we're going back to small town Newfoundland, which is where I was raised, right? So I was in small town Newfoundland now by myself with my mom. We didn't have much. We lived in this tiny little trailer. It was Uncle Roy's trailer. And we had no money. I remember we had pets. Well, no, the pets were rats falling out of the cupboard. And I named them, that made me feel better about it all. But I didn't have any sense of we're poor, we had nothing. It was amazing. I had shelter. Because when a storm would whip through and you were in this beautiful little bubble, it was a safe place, and I loved it. And we had the only pets we had that was Stray, and then you see the small black. Sorry, you can't really see there. Can you see it there? Yeah, right here. There's this little hump on the bottom. That was my wiener dog named Wiener. And I remember one winter, he was some delicious. And the other one too, we had to eat them all because we didn't have much. No, I'm kidding. We didn't eat any dogs. But that was the full spacious living room where we had supper, dinner, and I think we maybe even went to the bathroom there too. I don't know, but we did have a lot of space. But there I was, in rural Newfoundland. My dad was up in Ontario now. He was working at Petro-Canada, living the dream. But he was alone now, right? We didn't remarry, and he was up there doing his own thing. And my dad would come down and visit every now and then. But there I was, having a great time, and I loved it. Being the only little beige kid in small town Newfoundland was such a unique experience for me. Like I said, there were things like, stick the brown guy in net playing hockey, road hockey. That was fun. But I didn't have any sense of kind of racism towards me. There was curiosity. I remember that. That was interesting, right? They were very kind. Everybody was kind. But I also, you have to understand, as a kid at this age, where I was a baby when my parents split, I come back to small town Newfoundland. I had no sense of India. Like I had no sense of what my culture, like on my dad's side, I had no sense of that. I was this white kid growing up in small town Newfoundland. I thought I was white like every other little kid. But I heard rumors, like my mom and dad, I remember hearing that my dad was Indian, but I was like, is he I didn't know. I remember I was in grade 1 and I went to show and tell, and I literally brought feathers into show and tell, and I told the class that my dad was a chief. And I remember Mrs. Roberts, this is a true story. I was like, yeah, my dad was a chief. He's Indian. And I remember Mrs. Roberts, she looked at me and she's like, is he? Really? Yes. And I didn't know. The first case of cultural appropriation. Terrible, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything about my Indian culture. I didn't get any sense of like what racism was. In fact, what is the racist term against Indian people? Packy, right? People say packy, right? Now, depending on how you use it, right? It can be very hurtful, but for some reason in my hometown, it was weird. It's like even my best friends were like, "Come on, Packy, we're going," right? And it was kind of sweet, but I didn't know any better, right? And I remember one recess. It was bad. I remember the boys, they got around me and they were like, "Come on, Packy, we got you now, Packy." And I'd be so excited because I'd be standing there and I'd be like, "Yeah, Packy, get the Packy." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'd never seen a Packy before. Come on, let's go get him." And they'd all be standing around staring at me. I'm like, "What are you staring at me for, boys? Come on, the Packy's getting away." And it turns out I was the Packy. But I didn't know that. I didn't know, and I went home, and I was like, "Mom, I got something to ask you. Am I a Packy?" And she was like, "Well, I was going to wait till your 18th birthday to tell you." Right? I said, "So wait, what is a Packy?" I said, "Is my dad a Packy?" And she said, "No, Dad, your dad was born in India." I go, "Wait, he was born in India?" "Yeah, not Pakistan?" "Oh, so it turns out I'm not a Packy. And it's not my bully's fault. They just need to be educated, right?" So the next recess, they got me and they were giving me a wedge. They were like, "We got you now, Packy." I'm like, no, you don't understand. India seceded from Pakistan under the Indian Independence Act on August 15, 1949. They're like, "Whatever, Packy, we got." I go, no, you can't just lump us both into the same because they're very distinct cultures and they're very different. Like India has spicy food, but Pakistan's food's way hotter. And, the Indian music is like, hi-ya-ya. Pakistan is like, hi-ya-ya. It's very different. And you can't just lump us both into the same racial stereotype or you lose all credibility as an ignorant, racist, terrible person. So it wasn't their fault, I forgave them, But Newfoundland has a different way. Like, even when people say racist stuff here, I don't know if for my brown brothers and sisters, did you ever experience it? Where it's like racism in Newfoundland, even racist things are being said, they're still coming from a place of love, right? which is hard to wrap your head around because you don't want to say ignorance is okay, but you also have to understand where they're coming from. Like my experience, I remember, like after I've gone off and I've done television stuff and I've worked, I come home to Newfoundland, and in the Deer Lake airport, I had this woman. She was probably 60, 70 years old. She had legs like a goat. She was strong, one of those hard Newfoundland girls. She was old, and she came over, Shaun, Mejender. Oh, my God. She grabbed her talons into my arms. She wouldn't let me go. She pulled me in close. She's like, oh, my God, Shaun, we loves you. You know that we loves you here so much, my son. You're a hero, and we loves everything you do. And honestly, you do the best packing, she said. And I was like, well, thank you. She goes, you do the best packing. When you do that packing, oh, my God, we laugh so lot. We loves you. So what are you going to do with that? Like, how you're going to take offense to her? You're going to push her and say, hey, don't you dare. I'm like, no, she loves me. She loves me. And that's a good thing, right? She just didn't, I'm not going to take the time to talk to her about the education on using that word or not. But I remember, too, there was a show we did called Mejender Manor, and it was a TV show about doing tourism in my hometown. And they were interviewing people in my hometown about me growing up there. And there was this one woman, she came on, and she was like, yes, we love Shaun and Ronnie. They were so sweet. They were the sweetest kids. And we remember being in the back of the bus, and they would be there, sitting there like two little burnt babies. Oh, my God, we loved them. Two little burnt babies, they said. We loved them. Like, what are you going to do? You can't really, thank you. They're sweet. But I loved it, man. But I didn't know any better. In fact, I was a little bit racist, too. I swear to God, I turned a little bit racist. Because, it's just weird multiculturalism in small-town Newfoundland because there were some of the more racist kids that were cool, and they got to play on the basketball team. And I remember there was like one Chinese family nearby. He was my best friend. His name was Jason, and we were best friends, man. But we were like the only minorities in this whole peninsula, I think, at the time. And I remember I was going to do some work with his dad. He was like the head of the squid mafia. I swear to God. He would catch squid, and he would our job as young grunts, we had to go out and we had to put the squids on the flake. That was the thing. And I remember as we were driving up there, these two Chinese guys were talking about like the uncle and the dad. They were talking about how Packies wipe their ass with their hand. And I was like this little kid, and I was like, yeah, it's true. I'm like, wait, what? You can't, what? Wait, China, you're being racist? To me, it was only like last year did I realize. And I was like, you can't say that, chink. You can't call me Packy, chink. Like, you can't. You're not allowed. But it was weird. It's like where racism comes from in small-town Newfoundland. But they are, for the most part, and I don't know what your experience has been like. I know it's not always, what you see on the commercials, being the friendliest people in the world. There can be some dark sides of this place, too. But I think overall, the community, look at me, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Peanut butter and chocolate. Look at that. It's just perfect. That's my cousin, Daryl. And it really was a beautiful, beautiful, free childhood growing up here. But then I got way too sexy. I mean, look at that mustache. Look at that mustache. 12 years old with a mustache. What is he, Salvadorian? What is he? Where's he from? You don't know. And that was the other thing that was great about growing up, with a kind of biracial, because, if you wanted to be racist, people would try to be racist to me, but they couldn't quite figure it out. You know what I mean? They weren't quite sure. I would go down to the States, and I would go into places that were really racist, and I'd go in, and people would be like, hold on there, little fella, we don't serve your kind in here. You're one of them there, we don't serve no, you see that sign? Look at the list. You're on that list. I know you're not welcome just by looking at you. Now, give me a second here. Maybe I should ask you some questions. Okay, how bad are you good at basketball? You're probably good at basketball. No? Okay. You terrible driver? No? Okay. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how attracted are you to sheep? What? I loved it. Nobody could really be racist to me. It was awesome. But I went away. And, I moved up to Ontario. My mom and dad, they decided in a weird way, they were like, we should get you two back together. the family back together, even though they did not like each other. I think Mom just wanted to get out of small town Newfoundland. She was a social worker here, and she just wanted bigger and brighter things, you know? And so we moved back to Mississauga, of all places. It was terrible. And I went up there. Oh, wait. Oh, I got to go back. Yes. And I started working in television. But the first time I was ever on TV was actually in Bayvert, Newfoundland. Crank the volume on this. You got to hear the volume on this, Robert. So this was actually a Here and Now, which was our local news. They came to do a piece about Bayvert and the mine shutting down, and it was asbestos, by the way, that they were digging out of the ground, which is not the healthiest thing in the world. I don't know if you've watched science news, but apparently asbestos is bad for your lungs. And I remember being a kid walking around Bayvert, like, you know, I'd go out, and my mom had a blue Reliant K car, and I would like wake up in the morning and I'd wipe the frost off the, and then I realized, oh no, it's July and it's 28 degrees out. That's asbestos fibers falling from the sky covering my mom's car. But anyway, this was a piece about that, and this was my first time on TV, you guys. I found this the other. Can you see me? Glory, glory, sing glory to God. Celebrate His wonderful birth. Glory, glory, sing glory to God. God of love, glory to God. Sing His praises, glory to God. Glory, glory, sing glory to God. First time on TV, guys. You can applaud that. And this guy, by the way, yes, convicted pedophile. I'm not even joking. His name was Uncle Steve, and he was, that's a whole other movie of the week that I could go off on. But he was an immigrant. He came from South Africa, and he became a part of the church. Terrible thing. Uncle Steve Collins, go look him up. But he's gone now. He's gone back to where he came from. But anyway, sorry, I thought I'd throw that in. Is that uplifting? I don't know. But anyway, I went on to start working in TV, and I loved it, you know. Started being an actor because I grew up in small town Newfoundland. We're on stage. You're always on stage. You're always performing. You know, there's a famous comedian in Canada. His name is Brent Butt, and he had a TV show called Corner Gas. And I remember talking to him, and he always told me, he said, when I go to Newfoundland and perform there, he goes, I'm always about the sixth funniest person in the room. Like, because everybody here is a storyteller. Everybody loves telling stories. Everybody loves performing. And that was what I was raised at. So I always wanted to perform. So I went off. I did different TV shows. Just take you through a few of these. I was also on a kid show called Uh-Oh, that's me dressed up like a mouse there. Yeah. You know, this was a big cop drama in the United States called Detroit 187. I got to play a detective. But I'll tell you a bit of this one. Thinking about not feeling fully connected to who I was as a biracial person, I'd always get these auditions for, like, because my last name was Mejender, and they knew I had an Indian connection, I'd always get they were like, oh, well, he's got to be the Indian guy. But I was never quite Indian enough. And I always struggled with that. In my mind, I was like, I don't look, like I said, I'd rather go out for the Salvadorian guy. But they would keep sending me on these auditions for like the brown Indian guy. And I remember when I got this audition, it came along and his name was Vikram Mahajan. And I was like, nope, I don't even want to look at it. I didn't want to look at it because I'm like, I'm not going to be stereotyped. I'm not that guy. Do they want me to do an accent? And I always fought with that as a brown guy because I was like, I just want to be me. I just want to be who I am. Let me be that guy. And when I went into audition for it, they were like, no, that's his name. He has a background, but you're an American guy, and that's all you're going to do. So I was like, okay, cool. So I went in. I also played a lawyer on a show called Firm. So I was a cop. I was a lawyer. Now I'm playing a priest on a show called From, which is great. And actually his character, his name is Father Kotri. I auditioned for this in Burlington, in my hometown during COVID. I left LA, I came here, and I was in I have a small house there, and I set it up, and I remember getting the audition. This was a reverse. I auditioned for the part of like Father O'Donnelly, right? So now I got to fight against that stereotype. I got to make it my own. I ended up booking it, and now his name is Father Khatri, which is an Indian South Asian name. And it's actually quite beautiful. That story is pretty amazing how they did that. Let's see what's next. Oh, and this was a show with the Farrelly brothers when I went away. I do this sweaty East India character. I did him on 22 Minutes for years. His name is Raj Binder, and he's this silly guy that I did for many years. But the Farrelly brothers, they saw my tape of this guy, and they were like, oh, my God, we want that guy in the show. And I was like, I'm not going to do this silly accent on a show that I could be on this show now for a long, long time doing this. Oh, my goodness, what is happening? And I didn't want to play stereotypes. But it was the Farrelly brothers, and I did it. I went into that audition. I did it a bunch of different ways. They said they wanted it like the Canadian guy. They wanted the Indian guy. They wanted just a straight guy. And I ended up, they loved the Indian guy. And I said, okay, well, it's the Farrelly brothers. It's a TV show. It's on Fox. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it as best I can. And I actually have a scene here from the show. Did anybody ever see this show? It's like this. I'm going to show you a couple things now that you would have never have seen. But this was really cool. Why? Take a look at this clip.
If it's any consolation.
Oh, wait,
no. If it's any consolation, I had something similar happen to me on my wedding night.
You didn't give Dorit the big O?
Oh, no, I did. It's just, this is so embarrassing. It lasted for nearly 1 hour.
An hour?
Yeah, come on, don't rub it in, okay? I was really nervous, it was our first time together.
What exactly is disappointing about an orgasm that lasts longer than a bus ride to Maine?
Well, when you're accustomed to one that lasts as long as a bus ride to Canada.
What the hell is going on here? Seriously.
Lengthy orgasms are very common when you practice tantric sex.
Oh, come on. Tantric sex? That's just something that Steen made up.
Yeah, he wishes. No, Tantra, you guys, is basically the Indian art of conscious lovemaking.
Oh, Fred. You got to teach me that before I see Erica again. If you're going to teach him here, can you put down some newspaper?
I'm not sure you have the discipline necessary, Tommy.
Please. I want to take this chick to Maine.
Yeah, we all do. It's just...
No. I want to take this chick to Canada.
And that show was on for 6 episodes, and then it died. Now, here's a clip of a show that I got on where I auditioned for it, and it was with Cal Penn. And for my South Asian Indian people here, there's a Bollywood star in this that you would have never heard in Canada. But this was a sitcom that we did, and David Schwimmer from Friends directed it. But take a look.
Hey, are they mad?
You're a disappointment to this family.
Yeah, I know, but are they mad? I was 10 minutes late.
Too late. We have already arrived. Govind Singh is a servant. In India, servants don't eat with us.
We're not in India.
But he does not know this.
Govind already ate. He's setting up for your graduation party.
It's not their graduation party. It's 100 Indian people nobody knows.
If they are Indian, we know them.
So, who's sitting there?
The chair is for Raju's wife, to remind us that he is yet unmarried.
Do we have to talk about this?
Mom has necklaces and saris for this hypothetical wife as well.
Yeah, my hypothetical wife lost 100 pounds. Yeah. Looking good, honey.
And you know, Elizabeth, there used to be 2 empty seats.
Your mango pickle is tearing this family apart!
That's my favorite line I've ever heard in any TV show. Your mango pickle is tearing this family apart.
Why don't you just...
And then this, sorry, and then I worked on 22 Minutes. So this is a show, a clip from 22 Minutes.
To all Canadians, that
Turn
you're
up.
a radical Hindu Muslim working closely with the Buddhist Brotherhood to try to impose Jesus Murphy's Law on all Canadians. Why don't you just go?
You know what? I'll do this today on 22 Minutes. I'll come clean.
Beautiful.
You and I have a lot in common, which I think is really interesting.
We do. It's pretty cool.
A couple of young brown kids growing up in Newfoundland.
Go figure.
Right?
We have a difference though. I'm a proud townie.
I'm a proud Bayman, which, I mean, you and I would be getting into fights.
We get into scraps.
We get into
in
scraps,
Newfoundland.
that's
But
right.
as soon as he exits Newfoundland,
That's
we're
right.
brothers.
We're brothers.
Newfoundlanders.
Newfoundlanders. That's what we are.
If it's any consolation,
wait.
I had something similar happen
No.
to me on my wedding night.
You didn't give
That's
Dorit the big
It's not
up?
supposed to be there.
Oh no, I did. It's just people.
Oh yeah. Can I pause there? Pause that. There needs to be a pause button.
That you're a radical Hindu Muslim working closely
Okay, so here, I'll tell you. Can we just pause it?
to all Canadians. That you're a radical.
Is there a
Hindu-
pause on the VCR? You should be able to put record and play at the same time. Then I'll skip this. So that's 22 minutes of political satire show that I was doing here in Canada. But then I did this. Listen, like I say, my experience with racism was pretty minimal growing up in Canada. But then I did this other video on 22 minutes called Beige Power. And it was in response to when Donald Trump in 2016 was coming into power. Everybody was saying he was a racist, he was a white supremacist. And I was like, no, that's not true. It's like, you know, I come from Newfoundland and, you know, he's just dumb. And, you know, relax, everybody. We're all going to intermix anyways down the road. So I wrote this sketch called Beige Power. And here's a, crank it up, crank
It's
it up.
inevitable. A beige horizon. Brown meets white. No use in disguising people out. Making whoopee colorblinded by love. Genetic crisscrossing. Forgot to wear a glove. Whoops. There it goes. Generational drip. Look at the pure breeds losing their grip. Pure what? It's a lie. Ask your DNA. We've been mix matching since the break of day. Beige power, mixy mix arousing. Gonna look the same by the year 3000. Beige power, can't fool us with hate. This is Canada, bitch. We already great.
Right? Yeah. So that was in response, and I was like, I don't want this racist stuff going on. Like, it's just everybody relax. Now, I did this as a little joke, but that very video, that very thing, hit a nerve with the Nazis. And now, are there any Nazis here? That might have been triggering for you, any white supremacists. That is triggering, right? And that hit a nerve. I had people tweeting at me like they were coming. I had David Duke, who was the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, tweeting at me and saying, how dare you? Why do you hate white people so much? Why are you promoting white genocide? I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I just thought it was jokes. So I was like a stand-up. I was tweeting back stuff and I was like, whatever, bud. Yeah, I guess you figured me out. I hate all my white family in Newfoundland. I grew up there. Now I have to, tomorrow's white genocide Christmas crafts and bake sale has to be moved to a new location now. Like, just messing with people. But these were some of the tweets I was getting. Look at this. Beige power is a thinly veiled anti-white race. White people have a right to exist. I was like, is that real? Right? Then this guy, he wrote, no more whites. And then he follows it up with, hey, you racist. Then says, brown piece of shit. Like, what? You take a biology class, you effing expletive. And then I was like, okay, I did. So I did take an expletive. And then look, all humans living today belong to a single species, Homo sapiens, and share a common descent. Pure races in the sense of genetically homogeneous population do not exist in the human species today, nor is there any evidence that they have ever existed in the past, you effing expletive. There it is, right? But the tweets I was getting, like, look at this. I got this from this Beige Power video. A swastika rising in a field saying, good morning, sir. And I was like, oh my God. But of course I'm a comedian, so you can't take it to heart. I was like, oh, I felt bad for all the migrants working in that field that morning. You know what I mean? That must have been bad. They're like, run, andale. The worst part of waking up. You know, and they even look at what they did. I did not do this. These are people who were coming after me. This was like the racism that I was starting to see in Canada that existed. It was in the United States. They're doing all these graphics. This was my favorite. I was like, wait a minute, right? Look at this. They sent me these pictures to intimidate me, but you gotta have a sense of humor about it. You can't, I never was once like, oh, this is serious. In fact, I was like, you know, I'd never seen this green frog. His name is Pepe the Frog. Has anybody seen this guy? Pepe the Frog, he's a meme, and he's like the alt-right white supremacist meme. But I didn't know this. I was like, holy shit, Kermit. Like, what happened to you, bud? I know you were frustrated, like Piggy wouldn't put out, but like, this is you. You're gotten so alt-right. Like, that's how bad America has gotten it. The Kermit the Frog is now a full-on white supremacist, and here he is, you know? I was like shocked by it. Now, I'm not sure what the next, oh yeah, so this was the first time I'd ever experienced real racism in Canada on that level. It was bold-faced. It was all going around the time when Donald Trump was now, you know, in power. And it was gross, but I also kept reminding myself, I'm like, no, that's not all of humanity. I know there's a lot of divides in this world, and Canada really is a great place to be. We have a lot of love here, and going back to Newfoundland, you know, I kept thinking about my dad's story and how he came to Canada and how he thrived. He had great opportunity here, you know, but I kept wondering, like, what is up with my dad? Oh, wait, there was, oh, yes, no, this is it. This was an example of how Newfoundland specifically was one of those weird places where it gives you real optimism for the humanity that we have in these small places. And I remember it was one Christmas, and, you know, even though my parents split, my dad was in Ontario, you know. Oh, by the way, yeah, that when we were up in Ontario together, we're living as a family. We were there in the same house for maybe 5 months, and we were like, no, let's get the hell out of here. Like, my dad and mom hated each other. I hated my sister. We were always fighting all the time. I had a dog, and dad had a dog. They were fighting all the time. So we went our separate ways, but we stayed up there. But I would always come home to Newfoundland, especially for Christmas, and there's a tradition here called mummering. Do you guys know about mummering? So mummering is this amazing tradition here that goes back to Old England. And people get dressed up and they go door to door, like full cover. Like they look like bandits, banditos. And they go door to door and they bang on the door and they try to force their way into a house. And then they steal all of their drinks and their treats, and then they kidnap somebody and they go to the next house and continue to kidnap people as they go around this small town. Not exactly, but you know what I'm saying. And so anyway, I remember one winter, my dad was home for Christmas. I brought him home, and my nan, who is so beautiful and so sweet, dad was staying at my nan's house, and I was going mummering. And I brought this group of banditos, and my dad had never seen mummering before. And we came over, and I banged on the door. And the first thing you say when you're covered up is, you go, hey, the mummers allowed in tonight. And my nan answered. She looked over her shoulder, and she knew this Indian guy was in it. It's like, oh, I don't know. No, I don't think any mummers. She was embarrassed. She didn't know. She was afraid to scare the shit out of my dad. And I was like, Nan, it's me. It's, oh, okay. Anyway, came in. But this shows me it's like this cross culture, this beauty. Take a look at this. This is when, jack it up. Volume. That's it right there. That's the story there. Indian dad, Newfoundland Manny. Yes, sir. It was awesome. It was amazing. And my dad really did fall in love with this place. And so when he retired, you know, he was working up in Petro-Canada, and he got to a point where he never remarried. Mom died, you know, back in 2003. That really hit him hard. And, you know, when she passed away and my dad was retiring, he was like, where am I going to go to spend the rest of my days? And he thought, well, you know, if I'm going to be alone, whatever, I can go back to small town Newfoundland. So I bought him a house in small town Newfoundland and in Burlington. And he was getting ready to move back. And he tells me the story. He said it was probably 3 or 4 in the morning, probably a month before he was ready to move. And he gets a call from a somewhat inebriated German woman. And this is like, 40 years later. And he gets a call from Liesel. And she had had a lot to drink. And she was on the phone and she was like, Imani, what happened? You were supposed to come and get me. What happened? Anyway, I'm not going to tell you the story. I had the beauty of being able to get them to tell their own story. But take a look at this. This is, and I'll leave you with this. When you first met him, what did you think?
I fell in love with him like nobody can believe it. It was just so great. He was like everything. Like to me, it was.
So he was like an Indian Elvis riding around on his moped. That's my dad, I said.
Yeah,
that's my dad.
To me, he was the most beautiful man in the world.
The plan was for me to come in Canada, find a job, settle down, and then go back and get married with her and bring her back.
Right.
And in the meantime, I wrote her back, but she never used to get my letter. I didn't know nothing about it.
I didn't got the letters anymore. I thought he maybe found somebody more beautiful than I.
Yeah.
So I thought, I have to write him a letter. Oh, I almost got...
It's okay, it's okay.
If you found another girl, you are free. Just do.
It's okay. It's okay. Throughout the 30 years or whatever you were apart, you said you had a special place in your heart for him still.
Always. I was drinking one night too much wine. And I thought about him so bad. And I thought, if I'm not going to call him tonight, I don't have the courage next day to do it.
She asked me, how come you never wrote me back?
I
I
said to
kept
Manny,
writing to you. I never got any answer from you.
Yeah.
And then she found out from her
And then I
sister-in-law
found out.
that somebody used to
And then
take
somebody
this letter
took
away.
the letters away.
So who
And
was taking the letters away?
I think it was
Still-
my mom, and it was his best friend, my brother Albert.
Yeah.
And then he came. It was a Wednesday. It was like that song. Today I'm gonna fall in love with you again. It was so great. We cannot do anything without each other. We are so happy. We go together to the dentist, to the doctors, to the shopping.
Yeah.
And we are together.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be together. I wake up in the morning and I wake up and I say, oh my God, I'm so happy that you are beside me.
Kiss, just as friends.
She does know that.
Kiss, just as friends. Kiss.
I love you so much.
Bells are chiming for my father, Manny Mejender, returning to Germany to be with his first love, Lisa.
Das war eigentlich ganz gut, gell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Oh, that was part of Love Tour. And what a great way to end the talk, talking about how it all came together, because they moved back to small town Newfoundland, and they were there in that little house down by the water for many, many years. And then my dad, sadly, he got sick. They had to go to they had to do cancer treatment in London, Ontario. But still, isn't that amazing how it all comes around, and how do people get here and what their lives are like? Everybody has a story. I know you guys all have stories to tell too. But please support. If they're brown, don't stick them in net. Allow them to play out. But anyway, you guys have been great. Thanks so much for having me. I hope my story gives you some thoughts, some ideas. I love you guys. Keep fighting the good fight of diversity in this province. And don't let Facebook get you down. Don't let Facebook get you down. Thank you so much. Yes, Johnny.
Bro, that was amazing. Thank you,
brother.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Can I bother you for that?
You
few
can.
more minutes?
Absolutely.
Normally, whenever I hear Shaun's story, it's so multifaceted. It's so complex, but it's such a joyous story.
Yeah.
And we have about 5 minutes before we move over to the next part of our program. But I'm going to do something a little unconventional.
Sure.
I'm going to ask for one question in the audience, because sometimes people have got burning questions. That
Oh,
they like to
yes.
pose.
I am an open book.
Can I take one question from the audience now? If it's not said loud enough, I'll try and repeat it with the mic.
If anybody has any questions about any of that craziness.
Okay.
Yes?
I'll bring the microphone to you, sir. Introduction?
Yeah, I guess I feel compelled to ask a question because I'm one of the prime people in the crowd.
Sure.
So, yeah, so given your I think it's very intriguous, life stories and also your stories of your dads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you actually kind of sometimes struggle, kind of in between two cultures. I mean, you don't have the exposure of India, but
That's right.
but you do get the reaction from the community, right?
Yeah.
The small town and so on. And later on, you went on, stays in Hollywood. You got other kind of multicultural society. How do you actually struggle? How you compare, contrast with your experiences?
Say that last little bit. How do I struggle?
Struggle, compare, and contrast with different experiences.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's all a part of the tapestry. And I think if I attach myself to what I think I'm supposed to be, then I close off avenues of opportunity in many ways. Where if I go in with an open mind to all of it, and then bring with me all of the cultural experiences that I've had. Like when I went to India for the first time, that opened up a whole new world for me that I did not know and fully understand. But then when I think about the fact that my Takuma and my family from India, they survived a genocide, and that, that struggle and the power that my great-grandfather had to support the women at that time, that kind of is counter to what you may have heard. It's like some cultures, like women aren't allowed. No, he knew the power of women. That informed me as a person. And then I grew up in small town Newfoundland, surrounded by women and strong women. So internally, I become more, connected to the maternal instincts as well. So it's weird. It's like they all tie. And I think that being open to all of it is what's interesting. I don't put myself like I'm not a Newfoundlander and that's all I am, or I need to be more Indian in order to feel secure with who I am. It's like, no, I'm Shaun, and I feel great about being Shaun. That brings all of these experiences together. I think that's just the reality of a human life. I don't think anybody one thing. I mean, I am a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and I'll never be not, despite the terrors and the horrors that come along with it. But yeah, I think so, yeah.
Last one be my personal question.
Yes.
Okay. Now, navigating, again, I think piggybacking off that question of duality, you're the first, as newcomers come through, we'll have a new melange of culture, we'll have new brown babies.
Yeah.
We'll have a variety of mixes, For parents, perhaps non-parents, perhaps people within the education spaces, how would you advise that they approach this new nuance that's developing, these new faces that are developing, these new cultural mixes that are approaching? With someone with your kind of experience, how would you advise a parent, a teacher? How do you engage with that?
Well, it's interesting. It's like the more time you put, like I have 2 young children now. So as a new dad, newish dad, as a new old dad, because I'm an old dad. But, I think about this all the time now. What are the words I choose with my children in terms of how we describe people? We were in LA, surrounded by a lot of multicultural, which is great. We moved, we're now living in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But even making the choice of brown people, black and brown people, I don't even use black and brown. Like we use flavors, which is very interesting. I'll say, oh, did you see that girl with the beautiful chocolate skin? She was so beautiful and she was amazing. And I use that, and then there's a positive association immediately. It's not black or white. It's not us. It's not them. It's like there are so many shades and colors and flavors of people all over the world. We're not cannibals. Stop it. We don't eat humans. I'm just saying that the flavor thing has actually been really nice because there's a positive association with seeing somebody who does not look like them. I'm talking like 3 years old, right? So you want to make sure that the first steps in terms of being integrated into a world that is so diverse, it's like, choosing language like that has been really positive, and also not making that much of a deal out of it. Like not thinking about, we do talk about different cultures and how that's really beautiful and really good. But, I think fear of the other is what perpetuates the discrimination and the racism. It's all rooted in fear. That's all it is. When you don't know, then there's a possible threat for some reason, right? Oh, the Sharia law is going to take over. Canada's going to turn into a mosque. What? What are you talking about? Why do you feel that way? Like I don't want my kids being like, even the other day, you guys, I was at a birthday party and they were all like, 8 to 12-year-olds. And all these kids just all of a sudden, they spontaneously started talking about like Donald Trump for some reason. It's like, he's a bad person. And I'm like, I'm not pimping this out. Like, this is how they're talking. But then one of the kids chimed in and he was like, no, but Mark Carney. I said, what about Mark Carney? He's letting all these people in. I'm like, what? Where did you? I didn't push back, but I observed it for a minute. I'm like, so what is this kid's journey going to be like now as he integrates into the world, when he goes to school? What are his parents telling him? And what is the narrative on social media? It's not real. None of it is real in truth. It's like, if you start your life with that kind of us versus them, they're letting all these people, like, think about that 8-year-old boy and what he's going to go through the world. Already these things are being burned into his head. I said, what? He's letting people in? He's like, yeah. But already he doesn't even know what he's talking about, right? So Newfoundland is obviously a place where you get a lot of that. And I see it. I see the racism here. I see, it's not all nice and everybody's welcome. People here are fearful of changing their way of life, especially in small places. But as soon as they meet, as soon as they spend time, as soon as they learn, then it's, it unleashes, it undoes the fear knots inside of me. Now that I know, it's like, you are awesome. And we both love the Toronto Maple Leafs. So let's get together on that and find commonality. So it's a challenge, man. It's a challenge. It really is. But one worth staying hard and unapologetically leaning into it, okay? And don't let fear creep in. Now, you all know that. I'm preaching to the choir, but how do we plant those seeds in other people, regular citizens, people who are fearful, those, at all levels.
Thanks for allowing me to embrace my chocolate skin. Thank you.
Yeah, chocolate. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much,
I'll be around if you want to chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny.
So much.
Cheers.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Now, Sanjita, before we move over, we're about to move over to get food in a second. But Sanjita, can you come up here so that we can have a few words before we direct you again out these doors to the right to get some food? Sanjita?
Shaun just left. I just want to thank you, Johnny. I just want to make a quick comment. Shaun just brought me to so many memory lanes. When I first moved to Newfoundland, I have a very exact same background Shaun has. Bengali origin. My mother is here, but I do have another mother and father in Buren. They're like my kind of, they love me so much. When I first came, they made me feel this is home, away from home. Anyway, I just wanted to say that 2 things when I first arrived in Newfoundland, 2 things I was always getting questions from everywhere I was going or hanging out with, or people I was mixing, or university I was going to. Everywhere, 2 things. They're like, especially in Buren, where I used to go every Christmas, the shopkeeper, they're like, are you the new doctor in town? And I told my mom, my mother is here actually, Anjulika, and my good cousin, friend, and everybody, they're going to dance for you guys. Anyway, the first question was, are you the new doctor in town? And the second was, did you say you're Bengali? Do you know Shaun Majumdar? So finally I can say, yes, I know Shaun Majumdar, and I'm so proud of him. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thanks, Johnny. All the way for Shaun Majumdar. Once again, let's hear it.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. We're about to move on to the next part. In the gym, we'll have Zainova and the Bollywood Jig who are going to be entertaining us. So, I think we're ready for food. I think we're hungry enough. Through those doors, to the right, back to the same gym, where they'll be entertaining us. Thank you very much.